Hi, I'm Brian Holders with Root Cause, and today we're installing a root barrier. We have a Western Red Cedar, which is of indeterminate age, but it's quite old. My guess is about 30 years ago, the tree was all but cut down to a stump, probably 20 feet high. I'm not sure why they didn't remove it completely, to be honest. If you get underneath the canopy, you can see that it has grown an entire new tree. The tree is probably 30% shorter than it normally would be. It would normally be a single or double stem tree, and 80 to 100 feet tall. In this case, it's probably more like 50 feet tall. So it's unusually short and unusually broad for its species. The problem that we've run into is that there's a root or a series of roots, and they're probably not very big. They're underneath the paver patio at the customer's house. Roots have lifted the paver patio. They've lifted a small concrete slab. The customer is concerned about roots getting into the foundation and potentially damaging the foundation of the house over time. So what we're going to do is we're going to use air to expose the roots. We're going to prune the roots as appropriate. And we're going to install a barrier so that when new roots grow over the next 10, 20 years, when they hit that barrier, they'll spread outward rather than continuing to grow toward the foundation of the house. A root barrier is literally a barrier that we install to keep roots from growing in a certain direction. The barrier is made from interlocking plastic pieces, and when roots over time grow into the plastic, rather than continue to grow in that direction, the plastic barrier sends them outward so they don't get underneath, whether it's a sidewalk, foundation of a home in this case, or a patio. Frequently when we install a root barrier, we run into obstacles that cannot be moved. Whether it's a 1-inch water line for irrigation, whether it's a drain line, a 4-inch drain line for storm drain or for sewer line drain, we can't remove those. And so a lot of times the material can be cut, so we frequently have to notch the barriers in order to get it around immovable obstacles. Once we assess the roots and confirm that in fact we can prune them and remove them without, and still at the end of the project have the tree remain healthy and upright. Once we determine that, then we install the barrier, which is interlocking 2-foot long pieces of barrier that slip into the trench. Fill it all back in, water the roots, water the soil back in to compact it so that it's nice and tight, because it's got to support the surface of the patio on the surface. Once the soil is all watered back in, we leave room for about 2 inches of sand, because the pavers have to be set on a base of sand. Put the pavers back in, get them all lined up and cleaned up, and there's your root barrier. The material we use, best material I've ever seen. It's made by a company called Deep Root out of San Francisco. They make root barriers, and they make another product called Silva Cells, which is a structural cell system that creates a structure underneath sidewalk, so that the cell system creates the structure to support the pavement while allowing for nice, soft, fluffy soil underneath for tree roots to grow in. Much as the canopy of a tree above ground can be pruned, the canopy below ground can be pruned if properly done. Obviously, the complication, the complexity, the difficulty of root pruning is that the roots are covered in dirt. So in order to prune them properly and at the proper junctures, we have to remove the soil and expose the root system. And that's what we do with the air knife. Different from canopy pruning, the risk of root pruning is that if you remove too many or too much of the root system, you create a potential hazard. In this case, that risk is mitigated by the fact that the tree, because of the prior pruning, is unusually short. A tree, among other things, is a giant lever arm. That's a term that one arborist that I know likes to use. It's a giant lever arm. So if this is the tree and these are the roots, the tree moves in the winds. When the tree moves, it pulls its roots with it. They keep it upright. These roots over time that are underneath pavement, concrete, house foundation, whatever, can cause damage to those structures. When the lever arm, meaning the part from the ground up, the arm, is shortened, there's less movement in the root system. There's less movement of the tree and of the root system and winds. The result of that is that the over pruning, while it was a terrible idea, in this case has mitigated the risk of failure from root pruning. If you have new sidewalk, or if you're looking to install any type of a new pavement, if there's trees nearby, you want to talk to root cause about installing a root barrier, give us a call.